What's going on? My name is Apeshit Larry, and I'm here to tell you guys everything you need to know about the new ammo update for Counter-Strike 2. So I think we just should go category by category here and really describe the significance of these changes, not only for individual guns, but also for categories of weapons as a whole, and how this overall might shape the meta. So obviously the big change you've probably heard by now, instead of having reserve ammo for each gun, now you have a limited number of magazines for each gun, with a few exceptions. Every time you reload, you lose whatever was left in that magazine. So now, instead of being able to reload as many times as you want as long as you still have ammo left in your reserve, you have a limited number of reloads for every gun, and it's up to you if you fire all of your ammo or don't before you hit that reload, because whatever you had left in that magazine is gone. The shotguns. There's almost no change. You still have your reserve ammo. You still reload as normal. There's no magazine, so there's no change. That is true for the Nova, the auto shotgun, and the sawed-off. However, the Mag 7 is different. The Mag 7 is a magazine-fed weapon. However, you've still got 20 shots to work with here, so I really don't think there's going to be any downgrade to shotguns. I think the shotgun may be purchased more as a general class of weapon just because now there's certain other categories of weapons where entire guns are pretty much impossible to use now. One example of that is going to be the submachine gun, which we're going to switch over to. So the MP9. Let's see how fast I can fire 30 bullets on an MP9. Did you blink? Because if you blinked, you missed it. You can only reload twice, and then you're on the last of your ammo here. It takes about 2 seconds to empty one magazine, so you do the math. Not counting the reloads, you can fire the MP9 for a grand total of 6 seconds before you're completely out of ammo on your primary weapon. In my humble opinion, the MP9 is now almost useless at a long range because of the low accuracy and the high fire rate. Moving over to the Mac 10, because the fire rate is lower and it's easier to control the spray, I don't think the change is as significant, and you've got an extra magazine. I think you've still got plenty of ammo to get the job done with the Mac 10. MP5, nobody uses this. Who gives a shit? UMP, nobody uses this. Who gives a shit? PP Bison. Nobody's buying a Bison. However, if you do, you still have 64 bullets per magazine. I believe the Bison already had 64 shots. Maybe it was less, but either way, you've got plenty ammo. P90. Now, the P90 has 50 shots per magazine, and you've got 2 reserves. The P90 is prohibitively expensive compared to its alternatives. It's in a position where it's not really worth buying when you can afford an AK or an M4, but it's also probably too expensive when you want to be using SMGs anyway. So unless you're rushing certain close quarters bomb sites, the P90 wasn't really useful before. However, now, because the other SMGs have been effectively nerfed, especially the ever so popular MP9, I do think we're going to see more use of the P90, and I think it's going to establish a stronger niche within the game. Last SMG is the MP7, 30 shots, 3 reserve magazines. I think you've got plenty to work with here. Moving on to the machine guns. You've got 100 bullets in your magazine for the M249, and you've got 150 for the Negev, and you've got 2 in the reserves for each of these. Usually, if you're buying a Negev in a Premier match, you're either trolling or you're really trying hard to spam a specific angle. So, regardless, you're probably going to need a lot of Negev ammo. Generally, players like to start firing the Negev before they even cross a corner so they could ramp up their accuracy, which leads to a lot of wasted bullets. However, with 100 in the M2 and 150 in the Negev, I think the reload's going to be the least of your worries anyway. I think the machine guns are still just as useless as they were before. Sniper rifles. Valve is desperately trying their hardest to kill the AWP. So I'm going to bring up specific numbers for the AWP because I've seen a lot of other people bring them up as they discuss this gun, and it really seems to kind of be one of the most controversial changes of this update. You used to have 5 rounds in your magazine and 30 in your reserves. Now, your reserve only consists of 2 magazines. You have lost 20 shots with the AWP. You can only fire 15 times now before you're completely out of ammo. I think this is going to lead to less people buying the AWP. I think players that are very good with it are still going to buy it because they know they're accurate enough to make really good use of those 15 shots. However, I think you're going to see the usage of the AWP decrease overall, and I think it's going to be significantly less efficacious in the hands of a player who doesn't specialize in using it. And as we all know, it's already so much less useful of a weapon than it was in CSGO, as evidenced by the fact that even professional players, for the most part, haven't quite figured out how to use it correctly in CS2, and the impact of the AWP is not nearly as strong as it was in CSGO. We don't have star AWPers anymore. We have star entry fraggers. We have star riflers. The Skadoodle and Guardian of yesterday is the Donk and Flamesy of today. The AWP is already in the worst state it's ever been, maybe in Counter-Strike history, at least in the last 10 to 15 years, and this update might have just stomped it into the dirt. Frankly, it's really upsetting to see. I think it's a major problem. Yeah, man, I don't know what to say. I don't know what Valve was thinking. They definitely weren't cooking, though. You've got 60 bullets in each auto sniper. They've still got 20 bullets per magazine. This is actually a 45% reduction in how much ammo they used to have prior. The auto sniper used to have 90 rounds. So your overall capacity to spam with the auto sniper has been diminished, but I really don't think it's going to have a significant effect on competitive play whatsoever. You already never see it in professional play, and in Premier, most players have too much self-respect to use it, so I think it's a nothing burger. You used to have 100 rounds available on the Scout. 100. Now, you only have 30. That being said, nobody needed 100 rounds on their sniper rifle. This is an absolute nothing burger. The number's interesting, but it has no significant effect. So the R8, pretty useless weapon. However, it has gained overall another magazine's worth of ammo. You used to only have 16 shots with this thing, and now you've got 24. So for all you R8 enthusiasts, that's a W. Now, the R8 is not the only buff that we've seen in this update. A couple pistols got buffed. The Tech 9, you've seen a little bit of a reduction in ammo, but 18x4 is plenty. Now, with the CZ, we've actually got another magazine. So you get another reload out of your CZ now. However, considering how inaccurate this gun is and how low the damage is, you're gonna need to reload because you need your entire magazine to kill somebody. And if you don't dump your entire magazine when you start firing it, chances are if you don't reload and ditch whatever you have left, you're kind of screwed anyway, because you cannot kill somebody with 4 bullets left in your CZ. It's just too inaccurate. It goes all over the place. At the end of the day, I think you are going to get effectively less ammo out of this thing, which isn't a take I've heard anyone else say, but think about this logically here. You get 12 bullets with the CZ. When you kill someone with the CZ, unless you are right in their face, it is so inaccurate, it kicks so hard that it's extremely difficult to kill somebody. I mean, look at how inaccurate this weapon is. Look at this. So you're telling me you're going to fire 6 shots, your opponent is going to go back around the corner, you're going to trust 6 bullets with that low of an accuracy to kill the next guy? No, you're going to reload. So that extra magazine we've been given is going to be wasted in necessary reloads anyway, as a symptom of how impossible it is to kill someone with this piece of shit gun. I'm considering this a CZ nerf, even though everyone else is calling it a buff. I don't see it that way. 5.7, you had 100 reserve rounds before, now you've only got 40. 60 bullets total, 20 in the magazine. I think the 5.7 is going to see an increase in usage after this, just because that 20 bullets is going to be so valuable compared to how few bullets you have in these other pistols. Now, here's the kicker. The 20 round magazine capacity of your Glock has stayed the same. However, we've got less ammo in reserves now. I personally am not too sold on this, but some people are saying they're going to switch over to the P2K now. So here's the deal. The P2000 overall lost in ammo capacity. However, it has 13 rounds per magazine, whereas the USP only has 12. And that extra bullet can make a huge difference. So their ammo capacity overall is essentially the same. However, that one bullet bigger that the magazine in the P2Ks always had is now even more valuable. That being said, the USP is just so much more quick, accurate, and lethal than that P2K. I'm not too sure it's really going to matter. I think the USP is still going to be your best bet. Lastly, on to the rifles. Your AK, you got 30 bullets, 3 reserves. The AK, I don't think has inherently changed much. However, again, it's so important now to be careful about not reloading early. Quick tip for you guys. If you catch yourself reloading early out of habit, as soon as you notice it, oops, just switch your weapon. You'll cancel the reload. No harm, no foul. So check that out again. Oh, I don't want to do that. Just switch your weapon. You won't lose any ammo. Now, you've got the same amount of ammo per magazine and in the reserves between the AK and the Krieg. So I don't think this is really going to influence which one you pick. Now, CT is very interesting. So with the M4, we've always had less ammo in the A1 than we have in the A4. You've got 20 with 3 reserves on the M4A1. However, on the M4A4, you've got 30 with 4 reserves. That is significantly more ammo on the M4A4. At the professional level, players are hitting their shots anyway, and a lot of them are probably going to stick with the A1 that use it now. However, I think in Premier, especially in lower elo, you're going to see a lot more usage because it has so much more ammo with the extra 10 rounds and the extra reserve magazine on top. The AUG has the same ammo capacity, except it has one less magazine in reserve. I think that's going to have a significant change for people that do buy the AUG. However, nobody really buys it anyway, so it's most likely inconsequential. Lastly, looking at our eco rifles, 35 bullets, 4 reserves for the Galil. I think that makes the Galil a slightly more acceptable alternative to the AK just because that extra ammo is gonna matter. However, let's be real, the AK is a one-hit headshot. You shouldn't need an extra 15-20 rounds in the magazine regardless. And then looking at the FAMAS for the counter-terrorist side, you've got 25x4. That's significantly more ammo than you've got in the M4A1. However, the M4A4 is kicking its ass. So while I think the Galil benefited from this update and definitely got buffed, that Galil has 50 more rounds in its reserves than it had before the update. So I think the Galil has comparatively gained a little bit on the AK and become a little bit better of an alternative. However, the FAMAS having less ammo than the M4A4 still, I think is going to make it just about as useful as it was before, and I don't think there's a big difference. So now let's talk about how the overall meta might change because of this. For these first couple weeks, a lot of players are going to accidentally be reloading too early. Again, you can just cancel that out and you'll be all right. I think pistol rounds, it's going to be much more important to nail your headshots. Obviously, you want to hit headshots with every single gun. However, for those players that don't really know what they're doing in the pistol round and just kind of walk around spraying at the first player they see, dumping their ammo as fast as possible, in those lower ranks, I think you're going to see a lot more situations where players just can't get anything done on the pistol round because they're not good enough. So the importance of tapping heads on pistol round is emphasized by this update. I really don't like how bad the MP9 is now, but I think other than the pistol round changes, you're still going to have players who are good enough with the M4A1 to get those headshots that are going to prefer it over the A4 despite the massive difference in ammo capacity and reserves, just because of its accuracy and lethality that the M4A4 doesn't quite have. So I think the A1 is still going to be just as preferable for really good players, but the M4A4 is going to become more appealing overall. And then when we look at those sniper rifles, I think the final nail has been hammered into the coffin for the AWP. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe to see more. We've got plenty of streams, highlights, funny moments on this channel. Come check me out. Fuck with your boy. Peace.